Hello and welcome to Creative Momentum with Meg Dunley. This week I am coming to you from Sydney, Gadigal country. I've been up here for a little bit for the Historical Novel Society of Australasia conference, or now festival. Maybe this is a reminder to you to go to those festivals and conferences. It's always a good thing. You learn new things, you meet other creatives, and it's just such a great experience. Anyway, I'm staying in Gadigal country up in Macquarie Park, because my husband's working up here, and so hang out in his apartment doing some work. So anyway, this week's episode is with Georgia and Mark. They live in Perth. Georgia King, Mark Storen. They form Whiskey and Boots together. And Whiskey and Boots is a verbatim storytelling that's performance. So there's a bit of music, there's theatre, there's storytelling. They go into communities and listen and record stories and then perform them for that community. It was so much fun to get to know them when I was in France with them. And, you know, I now have some more lifelong friends over in Perth, which is great. They will be performing in Melbourne, I think, next year. But more importantly, this episode, they talk to me about what it's like to have a creative process together, have a creative world together, as well as a life together. And they talk about process and routines and all of those wonderful things. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi.
Hello.
Georgia and Mark. Just want you to start by just introducing yourselves and where you're from.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mark Storen. I'm from Perth, Western Australia, and I'm one half of Whiskey and Boots.
And I'm the other half. And my name's Georgia King, also from Perth.
Excellent, excellent. Can you tell me, collectively and maybe individually as well, what your creative discipline interest is?
Performance, primarily. We started in traditional theatre, and then have kind of morphed over the past 8 years into more community-based verbatim performance, storytelling with music. I would say.
Yeah.
With this interactive, this again, as you know, Meg, it's a little bit hard to describe in a succinct way that explains what it is. But the crux of our practice, theatre, traditional theatre background, but now it's in this more kind of storytelling, performance, community-based.
Yeah, I guess we've taken our skills as performers, performance makers, teachers, musicians, and kind of like merge them together to create something that is kind of like a hybrid of all those things. And I think what we've done is we've come up with a unique performance experience where we go into a community for 3 weeks and we interview people, and then we use headphone verbatim music and storytelling to kind of like provide a mirror to that place or that community. So we kind of become conduits for the stories, and hopefully what it does is it creates discussion, empathy, spotlights our commonalities, and it's kind of a deeper way of working. There's a term that's been coined in Australia called slow touring. So it's like a much it's a much deeper engagement with people in place, as opposed to what Georgia was talking about. We used to be just theatre makers or actors for hire, and we'd go in and we'd do a show, and then we'd bump out, and then we go to the next town and do a show. So this has been a much more rewarding experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. And I have got to experience some of it, and it's a lot of fun and also quite emotional.
Yeah.
Listening
absolutely.
back to other people's stories.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me a little bit about your creative process? And I'm assuming that you both play different roles within what you create. So maybe collectively and also individually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon it starts with an idea, and it's usually who normally comes up with it.
Well, I think like mostly you've come up with the ideas, and then just recently I've probably come up with some ideas as well. But really, the ideas would have come very much from you.
So I'll have an idea about like a community or a theme, you know, like, so, you know, like stories about mums, stories about death, young people, home, and then I'll come to Mark. It's really convenient that we share a life as well, because I'll just go for a walk and have an idea and start thinking about it, and then come to Mark and go, what do you reckon about this idea? And then we could just like jam it out. It could be this, and what about that, and and we start kind of brainstorming the potential of that idea. And then,
well, I guess
what do you think happens? Then it's about trying to get money.
Well, I think like it's kind of
Finding the community.
Yeah, finding the place that particular idea might be open to kind of, you know, trying it out, interrogating the idea a bit more.
So a key part of it is, because it's so much about community, the community has to be on board. So it's finding the key stakeholders within a community who are like, we're not about like convincing people to do it. It's like, are you into this? Because it's really like, you have to be like wanting to do this. And so once we've found the community and the people in the community, find the people.
Yeah, but sort of before that, well, as slightly adjacent to that, what I think our process is we didn't really know what it was. We didn't know what we were doing when we started. We had all these collective skills, but we kind of just tried it out, and then we went, oh, that kind of works, that kind of resonates. That resonates around this idea that George has come up with. And we kind of started to put it all together that way. And then over the
trial and error.
Over the kind of
which is probably the same for all of us.
Yeah, over the different iterations, we've created like a document.
Model.
Like a model, and saying, okay, these things really work well. We know these kind of are working for us. This thing, not so much. Oh, we discovered this other little component. So it's always evolving, I think, our process and our kind of idea about making.
But the crux of it is, I reckon, the idea,
the
questions, what we want to interrogate about the theme.
And the place.
Find the people, we sit down and interview the people for as long as that is, edit the story down, send it to them, make sure they're cool, and then bring it to the musician. So another part of our process that we haven't explored as much here is music. So we'd send the audio, or present the audio to the musicians. They'll come up with original music that goes with each speaker, each participant, and then we sort of put it all together.
Yeah, so it's kind of like each response informs them another response, essentially. So it's kind of like a tiered approach, and I think our process is nimble, flexible, open.
I love that.
Yes, responsive. Yeah.
And responsive, yeah.
So thinking about all that, when we think about routine, like a lot of people think, you know, to be creative you have to have certain routines where, you know, you get up at 5 a.m. and you do this until this time, and then this and this and this and this, and then you sleep, and then you... I'm curious about what your creative routine is. Also knowing that, you know, you share a life together outside of your work. And I guess my question goes, that extra for you as a couple, like how do you also separate your life from the work?
Yeah.
So what's your creative routine, and how do you create those boundaries around that for yourselves?
Yeah, we've had to be
Question,
I think the boundaries is a really important part for us, because it would be tempting to just talk about the work all the time. So we sort of have a rule of not talking about it until after breakfast, but that we break that all the time. But then it's good to have it there, because if one of us is just like, it's like, hey, we haven't had breakfast, come on. So we can check each other for that. And then sometimes if there's a lot backing up, we'll like schedule a meeting. Like at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, 10 a.m. on Tuesday, let's sit down and talk about, and we'll put together an agenda and talk about, so that it's not like at dinner time or other lifetimes.
Yeah, I think we try and have a structure. We try and keep to that, and we have this kind of check-in, hey, my bucket's full. So where's your bucket at? Is it low, halfway, or full? If it's full, we know that we need to give each other a bit of space. I think we have different approaches to the processing. For Georgia likes quite a lot of structure and a plan. For me, I'm a little bit looser. So like when inspiration strikes, that's when I'll I'll capitalize on it, or I'll kind of want to work the most. But I've got to find that inspiration, and sometimes for me that is like I have to go out into the place, look around, maybe do those things like just sit and have a coffee and sit amongst the place, and then go, oh yeah, that thing, that idea Georgia had, I reckon it might work this way, and then I can come back to Georgia or the group and say, yeah, I've thought this, what do you reckon? Because our brains kind of work differently.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, like that we're quite different.
Yeah.
Because if we're both the same, it wouldn't be as interesting, probably. But it's a challenge in terms of a collaboration, because I want to like move. I want to move now. Let's do that. Like, here's the idea. Let's go for it. And Mark's like, I need to let it marinate and be inspired and let it permeate. And the other challenge, that's probably the other one, because our work is collaborative with a community as well, they're not going to be on the same schedule necessarily that we're on. So we just have to kind of like wait until they're ready to share or have a story or what have you, and then we can go. But they have to be fitted into the routine.
100%. So I think that's why I sort of say our process is nimble, flexible, and open. It has to be. We can be rigorous where we can be, or scheduled where we can be, but we have to be. Yeah, we're on someone else's time often, and that's been a real learning for us, I think.
Because they're not creative people either.
Yeah.
They're farmers, or they work at the bottle-o, or they
run the pub or whatever it might be.
So you have to fit into their schedule, and they don't know what we're doing. So yeah,
but that's been really rewarding, don't you think? Because I think like that elicits something else, and some of those informal exchanges are where you really get the deepest kind of connection, the like a really amazing story, because you're in an informal kind of setting. It's not sort of formalized so much, and I think that is another part of our process. We're very interested in creating access for people who don't otherwise feel welcome in theatre spaces or performance spaces, because our background is that it seemed unattainable to us, and then when we were in those spaces, we sometimes felt like uncomfortable. So it's about comfort.
We think theatre and art should be for everyone.
Yeah.
And when it feels a bit gatekeepery sometimes, and we want to try and dismantle that as much as two little artists from Perth can do. Just make it as accessible as possible for Bogans who live in the outer suburbs or in the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. So do you try to keep your work to a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, or is it just literally you have to look at each week or each day and take it as it comes?
A little bit of both. Like, we do try and keep it Monday to Friday, but on tour, would be like, it will start off with like, we're having Sundays off. Like, so on tour it's much more intense, because you're doing a whole show in 3 weeks. From beginning with nothing and then a performance. So 6 days a week's fine, and we'll start off, but no Sundays. We're having Sundays off, but if that's the only day someone can do an interview, or if that's the only day the photography or what the media wants to do an interview, and Sunday it's like, that rule starts to get a bit...
Yeah, well, it's the only day we can set up the venue, because we're often in different spaces. So we do try to keep a bit of structure, but there's flexibility.
Where there has to be. I mean, like anyone, if that's the day it has to be that day. And I mean, very much from the old school, like, we just make it happen. Because we produce the shows as well, we don't have an external producer. We're the producers and the actors and the writers and the community engagement team. And so it's a little bit that sense of like, you just do what you have to do to get it made.
Yeah, that's true actually. Though when I do think about that side of things, we're kind of working on two things at once. So we're working on the creative, but we are producing it, and we're also working on the next show in terms of all the administration. And I think that's similar for a lot of artists, because you kind of...
You're your own manager.
You're your own manager, or you don't necessarily have the funds or the resources to kind of employ people to do that for you. We're lucky in the sense that we do have a marketing person, so we can handle some of that. But yeah, I think we're kind of working all the time, trying to keep some kind of time off, but it's very hard. I think it is very hard.
But I mean, when it's downtime, when we're not on tour, or when we do have some nice weeks where we've got
we do
space and time.
And that's what's been so great about this place is that it gives you the space to kind of really think about an idea, explore the idea. There's an intensity to it, but it's like everything else is taken care of, and that has been really nice, I think. Because in a way, that sort of being here has taken me back to the beginning of our process when it really was you, me and two friends just kind of making it up, and it was just very, very spacious because there wasn't a lot of buzz.
We took
around
longer
the work.
too, also because it's one of those funny things where in the beginning you're just like doing it on with the smell of an oily rag and you're just figuring it out and you haven't got funding and you're not accountable to anyone, but like no one's getting paid properly. But you're also like can kind of do what you want a little bit more, and you can be a little bit more like, what's the word? Be a bit more of a cowboy about it because you're not answerable to anyone because you haven't you haven't gone through the proper channels. Now that the bigger you get, the more success you get, you have to be accountable for all of the pennies that you spent and all that. So you have to be a bit more like structured.
There's a bit more rigor around the structure, whereas at the beginning of the process or discovering what the work was, we did have a lot of space, which was really nice, I think. And we'd all come into it from a place where we'd been working in a lot of that rigorous framework. And we were searching for something that was a bit looser. Like I wasn't even performing in the first iterations. I was just banging on the guitar.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it was all Georgia because I was like, I've had enough of speaking words out of my mouth. I just want to turn into the corner and play guitar. And I literally did that. I don't think I even looked at the audience. I was just like down, and there was two other musos, and we were just three friends.
And then you got jealous of me performing.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that looks fun. So it sort of reinvigorated us. So the process, I think, did actually reinvigorate us as artists and kind of change the path we were on as artists, which has been really nice. So now I wouldn't even consider myself an actor. I'm just kind of like
I feel like that too.
Like an artist who makes work using many different forms.
It feels like I often feel like I'm not quite anything. I'm a little bit of a producer, a little bit of an actor. I don't even know if what we do is acting. Some of people people put you in that category, but it doesn't feel the same. Yeah. Am I a performer? Do we make performance art? Not really. It's we're a bit of a kind of master of none, I think.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
I'll definitely put you on the performance category.
Okay.
Tell me, if you were to meet someone at the very kind of early time of them choosing to live a more creative life in whatever form, what wisdom would you want to impart?
Oh, just take risks.
Yeah.
I think risk taking is really important for creative people, and I feel quite strongly that we live in a society, education system, everything that makes people risk averse. People want to be good straight away. People don't want to like get messy and make ugly things. I think it's really important. Like I wish we could dismantle that and that people could just like throw shit up and who cares if it's bad to begin with, or it continues to be. It doesn't actually matter. Like be riskier, everyone. That would be what I would say. And people at the end of their careers as well. I think there's pressure once you've got to a certain level that you have to the pressure's to be good all the time. And then I think you're too careful and too safe.
Yeah, I would say it's in a similar way to Georgia. Yeah, don't be afraid to make it ugly beautiful, because I think in the ugly there's beauty. And it's more authentic in a way. You're leaning into something that's not considered, like the correct version. I also think just don't be afraid to make it up as you go along, because you can create the life you want in whatever and that in itself is creative. There's many different paths. You don't have to follow one. If you want it, you'll find a way through it, and don't be discouraged by everyone saying you need to do this, and this to have a good and full and measured life. It can be whatever version that works for you. I think the version that works for you is the right one.
Yeah, comparison is the death of creativity.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself. Just do your own thing. And just be messy.
Yeah, be messy.
I love that. Any other pearls?
If you want, do you have anything else? No judgment, just curiosity.
Yeah, stay curious. That's good.
Stay curious. Yeah.
It's one of my favourite words.
Yeah.
Be
I mean,
curious.
it's important for
Yeah.
creatives. Just be curious.
Yeah.
And you can see with people here who are, older people who are still curious. That's why they're still vital. When you lose the curiosity and adventurous spirit, and that's part of the risk taking, it fizzles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really hope you enjoyed that. I love Georgia and Mark's message about risk taking, that we live in a society that makes us kind of quite risk averse, and everyone wants to be good straight away without getting messy. And when we're creative, we need to get messy first. I love that message. Just don't be afraid to make the messy, ugly thing first moment. In fact, I'd encourage you to even think about that instead of ugly as playful, because that's what we need to do when we're creating new things. And that's where beauty and authenticity lie. Mark's wisdom about creating the life that you want and not being afraid to make it up as you go along, that is just such great advice that I love, and I hope you love too. Because what this does is it gives us our permission to find our own creative journey, our own creative pathway. And I love George's reminder that comparison is the death of creativity. So we need to stay curious and adventurous throughout our creative lives. So if you want to find out more about Georgia and Mark and Whiskey and Boots, you can find all of their details in the show notes. Please do go and search them out. And of course, if you liked this episode, please do like, share, subscribe, press all those buttons. And, it helps others find a way into their creativity. And of course, it supports those creative people who I've been interviewing. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to Meg Dunley from Creative Momentum.